Being in Congress is a privilege. Don't waste it and don't settle. Don't say, well, we tried. Don't abuse the power we've been afforded to make a difference in people's lives. The people are depending on you to show up for them and their need. You have the power to change the world, so don't sit on that power. Use it to do good deeds and to save and transform lives. We are the United States of America. We are the wealthiest and most powerful country in the world, so we can't act like the court jester. So do better.
That was Congresswoman Cori Bush of Missouri delivering her final speech on the House floor, urging her colleagues in the lower chamber to, quote, do better. The Democratic caucus is losing a young, progressive woman of color from a working class background at a time when that is exactly the kind of voice they need more of as the party grapples with how to move forward after this year's election. And Congresswoman Cori Bush joins me now. Congresswoman, it is so good to see you.
Thank you for having me. Good to see you, too.
Thank you. Your message was powerful today. Say more. What do you think this party, where do you think it has erred, and where do you think it can do better?
So one major area is continuing to allow corporate money in Democratic primaries, continuing to allow billionaires to dictate who the elected representative will be. That's a big problem. The big money in politics is a problem already, yeah. but to sit back knowing that billionaires are going to decide, not the people.
I'm just looking at my notes here. AIPAC, which is a very powerful lobbying organization, spent at least $8.6 million to defeat you. That made you the second most expensive House primary, the second most expensive House primary of the year. Of course, number one was Representative Jamal Bowman. The same organization spent more than $14 million to unseat him, and they got their result they wanted in both of those races at a time when there are still, 45,000 people who have died in Gaza. You've called for that. There's some sign that maybe a ceasefire is coming soon. What do you think is the future of being able to stand up for the dignity of people in Palestine when that kind of targeting is successful?
Yeah, and that's one of the problems, is because what we don't want is for people to feel that I can't speak up and I can't stand, and be true to my values. And we're talking about saving lives here. That's the thing. We're not talking about, how much it's going to cost to get from point A to point B. We're talking about saving humans. And so it shouldn't be controversial, but it is. And actually, let me add that Jamal Bowman's race was it ended up being the most expensive race in U.S. history. Mine ended up being the second most expensive race in U.S. history. There was $15 million spent to unseat me total when you add all of the different groups together. That should not be allowed in the United States. And so what we're looking at is not only people in Gaza. We're looking at what's happening in Lebanon. We're looking at, and then look at Haiti, look at Congo, look at Sudan. Jamal Bowman and I were fighting for people to have access to clean water, clean air. We were working to make sure that people had housing who are unsheltered. Our work was for the working everyday person, our disabled community members, all people who need us the most. Our work was not to destroy or divide. Our work was to heal.
And that goes for the U.S. as well. Obviously, the reality is you talk about your working class background, you talk about dealing with, sexual assault, et cetera, and dealing with poverty, dealing with living in your car. You've given that story. We now have billionaires in charge of the government.
My God.
They're talking about doing things like tariffs, which will make things very expensive for working people. There's a threat for abortion rights. You now have Texas, the Attorney General of Texas, suing New York to try to stop even just the ability for women in Texas to get access to the abortion pill. And you are one of the people who's sponsoring, trying to get the Equal Rights Amendment finally ratified. What's the status of that?
So, I need people to understand that medication abortion, especially when we're talking about Texas, medication abortion is the most common form of abortion in the country. When us pushing for the ERA, I led a letter alongside Representative Ayanna Pressley with 120 of our colleagues urging the president to certify and publish the ERA because the time is now. That it's overdue. 101 years. We've been pushing for this. And so he has a few more weeks left in the presidency. We need him to get this done because we know the harm that could come with this Donald Trump presidency and this administration. But what people don't often think about is the ERA is more than abortion rights. It's more than reproductive freedom.
It's equal rights for women, period.
For women, period. And so closing the gender wage gap, making sure that we fight sexual harassment in the workplace, violence against women, all of those things, discrimination in healthcare and in education. We need that now, and Joe Biden is in the position to do it. And let me say this, the Archivist of the United States is the one who would certify and publish, and the president would sign it. The archivist said that, that she does not plan to move forward, but the archivist is basically a librarian.
Yeah.
She does not get to decide what goes in the Constitution or not.
Yeah. Let's talk about what I've called the gerontocracy, what one might call the gerontocracy of the Democratic Party. Younger voices like yourself, like Ayanna Pressley, like AOC, obviously. She was pushed out. She was booted from she lost her bid for a top committee seat. It is said that and reported that Speaker Pelosi was one of the people. I mean, Jasmine Crockett also went for a seat, did not get it. You're seeing